Well then, I'll come back to see you again. Thank you for the cake.
Sana held up the box containing the cake in front of her face and bowed her head.
No worries, please come back again.
Chris' mother said, holding the door open with one hand and waving.
Well, I'm off then.
Chris waved back to his mother as he tucked his heels into his sneakers.
Don't be too late. Bibi, don't be naughty, be good.
When the mother waved at Bibi, who was peeking out from the shoulder bag slung over Chris' shoulder, she slowly closed the door. Chris told his mother that Sana had forgotten that her classmates had invited her to the graduation party, and that she had to leave suddenly, and Chris was also invited. Though she said, "It's a pity," the mother easily accepted it, likely pleased that Chris had started actively participating in such gatherings. She also gave them a cake as a souvenir, which they were supposed to eat together.
If you tell your mom that Hitomi wants to see Bibi too, it won't seem strange to her to take Bibi with us. Why don't you just pack a change of clothes in the bottom of the bag you'll be carrying Bibi in?
When Chris followed Sana's advice, his mother didn't question about bringing Bibi along with him. And it seemed that she hadn't even noticed the things Chris had packed in his bag. Sana had also said, even if your mom noticed the things, just tell her that you are bringing memorabilia as graduation keepsakes, and it would be okay. Chris was impressed at how easily Sana could come up with such a lie. Then Sana, who was unlocking her bike, turned to Chris.
Is it wrong? But it's a necessary lie, so it's okay, right?
Sana said, brushing away the hair that had fallen over her cheek back with her hand. Apparently Chris's thoughts were conveyed.
I must be careful not to put thought into words. That's right,
Sana said without saying a word, glancing at Chris. When Chris and Sana returned to the castle, Clare was straddling Ramal's neck, frowning and holding her hands up to the sun. She said that it was tough for Ramal to shapeshift into human form on Earth, but it might be a bit tough for Clare to stay on surface, too. When Chris went up to the castle and apologized for keeping them waiting, Clare shrugged and said, "It's nothing." By the way, Chris said, expressing something that had been on his mind.
I'm sure the entrance to the underground world is inside a pyramid somewhere in a foreign country, right? Even if it doesn't take long to get to the underground world, we'll still have to ride Elandra and Ramal to the entrance of the underground world, right? If that's the case, won't it take a really long time to get there? If so, I'll have to rethink my excuse to my mom.
Clare easily blew away Chris's worries. The entrance to the underground world is right over there, Clare said, pointing to a triangular mountain towering over the city. It is a mountain with an altitude of about 1,000 meters that the locals call Pyramid Mountain. As its name suggests, the mountain forms a beautiful equilateral triangle from any angle.
Can we get to the underworld from there?
There are dimensional gaps all over the surface world that can take you to the underworld, Clare said with a straight face, as if that wasn't anything surprising. But it's unlikely that the people of this world will know about it.
I see. Either way, it's reassuring to know that we can get to the underworld from Pyramid Mountain. If we ride on Elandra, it should take less than 10 minutes to get there.
Then Clare said, "Hey Chris, take this," and threw something. Chris quickly raised his hand, and something shiny wrapped around his arm.
Oh, this is...
It looked just like the bracelet which Clare had given Feroz when he returned to the surface from the underground world. The bracelet slipped through Chris's sleeve and into his clothes, then wrapped around his wrist like a snake and stopped dead in place. It's a miracorn. It's a special item that contains the energy of several powerful dragons. It's a tool for sealing mythical beasts, and it can bring out the hidden power of the person who wears it. It should also be necessary when you get the dragon stone. I asked my dad to have a blacksmith make one specially for you.
You give this to me?
Yes, but make sure you don't lose it this time.
Thanks, I won't lose it.
The silver bracelet wrapped around his wrist had a dragon head decoration on the tip. The finely carved scales emitted light and sparkled, as if jewels were embedded in it. Sana looked at Chris's arm and said, "Wow, that's wonderful. I wish I had one." Then Clare looked Sana up and down and said, "You've changed your clothes, haven't you?" Sana turned to Clare and said, "Well, yes," and adjusted the position of her backpack. Sana's outfit, which had been a long skirt with a thin knit top and chunky boots, had changed to something more like a casual hiking outfit with a sweatshirt, jeans, and sneakers.
I wonder if I should wear shoes that are easy to walk in? I'll be walking a lot, right? Maybe sneakers are better?
After leaving Chris's house, while packing in Sana's room, Sana muttered to herself,
Do they have showers over there? I'm not sure. I don't remember taking a bath in the underground world in my previous life. Really? But I should take a shampoo set with me just in case. I'd be in trouble if I needed it and they didn't sell it over there. By the way, what about money? We can't use Japanese yen, can we? No, you don't need money over there. What? What do you mean? You'll find out when you get there. Anyway, why don't we leave soon? Just wait a moment. Once we get there, time won't pass anyway, so it should be fine, right? Yeah, that's true, but
after such exchanges, it ended up taking Sana more than 30 minutes to finish packing. By the time they left Sana's house, it was past 3 p.m.
Well then, let's go. You two, get on my back.
Elandra said, and put her tail on top of the castle as if crossing a bridge.
Sana, do you want to go first?
Sana shook her head at Chris's suggestion.
No, you go first.
Chris nodded and slowly crossed the end of the tail with a nervous look on his face. However, he got caught in a scale and fell forward.
Whoa!
Chris and Bibi exclaimed at the same time. Chris, with the momentum from falling, climbed up to Elandra's neck in one swift motion and hugged it. You scared me, Bibi said, peeking out from the bag. Sana kept her balance and crossed the bridge with confidence, one step at a time.
Now, are you ready?
Elandra said after confirming that the two of them were firmly seated on its neck. They both nodded back at the same time. Then Elandra spread her large wings and kicked the ground powerfully. Despite only a single flap of its wings, Elandra soared up into the sky in one swift motion. Chris felt a chill in his stomach as he looked down at his house, which appeared small far below. Meanwhile, behind Chiri's, Sana was cheering and yelling with joy. Bibi also leans out of the bag, his fur fluttering in the wind and looking very comfortable. Chris also tried not to look down too much and concentrated on the view. Then, gradually, the fear subsided. Riding a dragon and flying through the sky was something Chris had experienced many times in his imagination. And now, it wasn't a dream but a reality he was actually experiencing. Unable to contain his rising excitement, Chris repeatedly shouted, "This is so much fun." Then Sana called out to Chris.
Hey, Chris, I said I wanted to go somewhere during spring break, right? Yes. I never dreamed I'd end up going on an adventure like this. But it'll be the best memory of my last day of elementary school.
Sana said, slapping Chris hard on the back. It took less than 5 minutes to get to Pyramid Mountain. As they reached the middle of the mountain, Sana pointed to the mountainside and said, "What's that?" Where Sana was pointing, there was a big black hole. It was a huge hole, easily 20 meters in diameter, with its mouth gaping wide in the cliff face of the mountain.
What's that? Is that a cave?
Neither Chris nor Sana had ever heard of such a large cave on Pyramid Mountain. When they were in the 4th grade, they had come here for a field trip, but it hadn't been mentioned at all then.
It's the entrance to a subspace. It appears like this in certain places, when needed in response to requests.
Clare, who was riding on Ramal's back, turned around and said. Then they disappeared into a pitch-black hole. Following them, Elandra also entered the hole. As soon as they entered the hole, Chris and Sana heard a terrible ringing in their ears, but it only lasted for a moment. When the ringing in their ears stopped, silence enveloped them. They can't hear anything. The sounds of car engines and factory machinery that had been audible earlier could no longer be heard. The air was tense and they felt like they were in a space that was clearly different from the outside world. Chris clapped his hands, worried that he had gone deaf. Then, he heard a slightly faint sound. The sound itself seemed to be sucked into the space.
We can hear no sound at all, can't we?
Sana said telepathically.
Yeah, I thought something was wrong with my ears.
Chris replied telepathically, too. The hole they came through got smaller and smaller, and eventually it was completely blocked off. At the same time, the surroundings were enveloped in pitch-black darkness, as if painted over with black paint.
It's pitch black,
Sana said, grabbing Chris' jacket tightly. Then, several red beams of light shot out like arrows and passed by Chris and the others. Next came blue, pink, purple, and other neon-colored beams of light that flew past one after another. Eventually, the surroundings became a tunnel of light, enveloped in a myriad of colorful beams.
Wow, it's amazing, it's so beautiful.
Sana exclaimed in excitement as she looked out into the tunnel of light that seemed to stretch on forever. Then the shower of light that had continued for some time suddenly disappeared, and the surroundings were once again enveloped in pitch-black darkness. And at the same time, they heard a strong ringing in their ears. When the ringing in their ears stopped, the air quality changed, as if the tension had eased. Then a small white hole appeared in front of them. The tiny hole, like one made by the tip of a pin, grew larger and larger, and a dazzling light poured in from it, as if water had been released from a dam. The light was so bright that Chris closed his eyes. Ramal and Elandra flew slowly towards the exit of the light.